What's happening, folks? Welcome back to Celtic Fans TV. It's time for full-time reaction to Aberdeen now. Celtic won as we move back 9 points clear at the top of the table thanks to a late strike from the returning captain, Callum McGregor. I've got Kenny and Darren here to go through the game with me. Kenny, it's another late victory for us this season, but I think on the balance of play, we probably deserved it.
It's a massive win. I think it's one of those wins where you look, if you reminisce towards at the end of a season over the key games, then this has got to go down as one of them, because big gap from the World Cup, unprecedented. We've never had that before. Will we come back with the same rhythm? Will we be cold? Our rivals have got a new manager. They're trying to mix things up to close the gap. It's one of the hardest away grounds to go, sub-zero temperatures. And it was so frustrating at times. But to get the 3 points is just enormous. And it's so fitting that McGregor did it. I was so proud and pleased. We'll talk about McGregor and eulogise about him, I'm sure. But it was just so fitting that the volume of passes and the control he brought to the game, for him to break down and get the winner was really fitting. I was surprised at Aberdeen's approach. I mean, normally got there, it's a competitive game. I thought they would have wanted, they seem to have decent forwards, seem to have got a bit of pace up front. But they decided just to play as if they were coming to Celtic Park. They put a bank of 5 and then 4 in front of them in their own box. And it was just a combination of things, I think, that meant we couldn't break them down. We couldn't land more balls in behind the fullbacks. Our shots were off target. Anything that we got on target, their keeper was in good form. We weren't feeding sort of Jota, most creative players enough, sort of Jota enough. I thought O'Reilly was off the boil, actually. He was pretty slack in that first half. Kyogo was off the boil. So I think there was a number of contributing reasons why we just couldn't break them down. I don't think it's anything to worry about. I think it was just one of those days. But people must get bored of us talking about their resilience and just how amazing it is that they find a way. It amazes me still that I've never seen a Celtic team that find a way this late on in games with this level of consistency. And I've watched Celtic a long time.
Aye, it's remarkable, the number of late goals, the number of late winners, Darren. Coming into the game today, we've got Maeda back in the lineup, Carter Vickers as well. Both guys were away at the World Cup, but it was pretty much as close to our strongest team as we could have had. Aberdeen, 18 points out of 21 at home this season, and as Kenny says, you expect periods of the game where you have to defend up there. If you think back to our 2 wins there last season, 2-1 and 3-2, there was periods in both of those games where we had to be the team that defended, and you expect that when you go to places like Pittodrie. But today, Aberdeen weren't even engaging with us until we reached their 18-yard box.
Well, see, if you look at the history when we got there, it's all high-scoring games, 4-3, 3-2, and that's kind of what I expected today. It's first time we've played up there this season. I think they've got 2 really good strikers, and that Majowski and Duke. That Duke kind of gave Ralston a run for his money when they just try to get an out ball. But I was really surprised at their approach today. Even just I seen the stats come up at the full time there. They had 1 shot and we had 30. Even it's 1-0, man. It was just such a frustrating game to watch. But at least we got it in the end. I'm kind of like, see, because this was the only game that was really on the day, the 12:30 kickoff, and it was on a main event channel. And you've got probably people who don't normally watch Scottish football, and they tune in to watch that, and they see a pretty boring game. Celtic playing one-dimensional football in Aberdeen's half. Aberdeen having really no desire to even get up at Park, and even myself watching it, I was just like, this is, I'll be honest, it was boring. It was really boring. And going back to what you said there, Ken, about the resilience, see if that was like any other Celtic team, I would have just got to see that last 10 minutes. I was like, this is nothing each. But again, they just showed such spirit. And I think we're guilty of maybe trying to walk the ball into the net a few times. A lot of times, especially in that first half, I'm just screaming, shoot, have a shot. And, we're taking too many passes. We're going side to side, trying to walk the ball into the net. But thankfully, a couple of minutes left, Callum McGregor just takes a gamble and fit for him to return for a long period of injury. And what a finish, man.
It's a great strike. We'll come to McGregor in a minute. And we talk about this all the time, Kenny, because we come up against it most weeks. And it's Aberdeen's prerogative to set up the way they want, the way they think will get them a result. But I don't think they get the balance right today at all in terms of anytime they got the ball, they were just punting it in the channels, hoping for something to come off. And we were brave, as we always are under Postecoglou. We just left Starfelt and Carter Vickers 2v2 against Majowski and Duke. And we won everything, really. They never really threatened. I think they had 1 break up the park in the first half that they won a free kick from. But, other than that, they did absolutely nothing. it would have been a travesty really had they got something from the game, because they didn't offer enough to it in terms of competing and trying to make it a spectacle and attack in any way, shape or form.
Yeah, it was strange. I think we had over 80% possession. I mean, I don't know if you charted the history of going up to Pittodrie, whether you've ever had that before. Probably never. McGregor had made like 120 passes after an hour, so he's basically just owning the ball, right? Literally in the middle of the park. So it was pretty defeatist from them. I mean, they relied on their luck, didn't they? They can't expect it. No team can give away 85% possession and have 30 odd shots, many of which were on target, and just you're relying on luck. The fact that you're keeping a clean sheet, not entirely controlled. I mean, they did shut us out well, and I suppose they'll argue, well, we were 5 minutes away from getting a point. Had we opened up, you might have cuffed us. You were, fresh and going at it. You might have cuffed us 4 or 5-0. And I think the defence did okay, actually, because one risk is that when Celtic are sucked in to play more or less all of our players in their box and just leave Vickers and Starfelt, long balls up the park with pacey guys can cause you a bit of problems. And it was a little bit uncomfortable, a couple of outings in the first half. I actually thought Starfelt did a good game. He was pretty... I'm always pleased when Starfelt was a good game, because there's a suggestion that he's returning to form. He is someone whose form can be a bit up and down, but when he's on it, he's a big player for us. And I thought he was really tidy today. But unusual from Aberdeen, so they did deserve to fail. Yeah,
Dan, that's enough about Aberdeen. For us, I thought we actually started the game well. I thought we were moving it quite quickly in the first 10-15 minutes. We did get a wee bit predictable, though, I think, towards the end of the first half. No real clear-cut opportunities. Hatate produces a decent save for the goalkeeper, but there's not real pace on the strike. I think they gave the keeper more credit than he necessarily deserved, because he didn't get much on it, Hatate. And other than that, in the first half, we just couldn't carve any real glaring chances out.
No, you're right. I think, to be honest, that was a game more suited for Giakoumakis. I know we've had this debate so many times, so we won't really go into too much about that. But I watched Kyogo closely, and Aberdeen had that big centre-back, Stewart, I think his name is, number 5. Mm-hmm. He's just, physically, he's just too much for Kyogo. And they had, the back 5, where they literally had 2 guys on Kyogo. He's just not got the strength to get in there. Yes, he had a few kind of chances where he got his body on the end of crosses, and he probably should have scored that sitter he had. But in terms of trying to get crosses into the box, which we had to resort to doing for a vast majority of the game, because we were trying to play through them, but they were just shutting the door, so we had to go out wide. Greg Taylor had a few crosses, Jota, even Ralston was getting down to the byline a few times and putting a few balls in, but they were just getting cleared away, and then the drop ball was getting cleared away back to the centre halves, and then we would just start again. It was just repeating after that. So I think, yes, Kyogo did kind of struggle today, and I thought it was probably one of his poorest games for Celtic, to be honest. But I'm not going to put the blame completely on him, because we have, and you just said, you don't want to talk about Aberdeen, but their shape did kind of force him to have a bad game.
Yeah, Kenny, I thought in the second half we got a bit more joy. Abada coming on for Maeda. A few comments referencing Abada. He did make a bit of a difference, and we were getting balls down the sides, in between the fullbacks and the centre halves, getting to the byline, which we never really did at any point in that first half, and Abada did make a difference, didn't he?
Oh, he definitely did. I thought he probably should have started. Maeda's, he's had a bit of a demand on him at a World Cup, even psychologically above all else. You saw how emotional he was when they get knocked out. So I would have thought a fresh-legged Abada would have been something we should have started with in the absence of Haxa, but. Yeah, he made a real difference in that second half, just with his pace and his desire. He looked really hungry. He looked really up for it. He himself looked like he wanted to drag us through it. The problem was when we got it, did allow us to get to the byline more, but the movement in the middle of the box was poor. I thought, Kyogo's trademark is his movement in the middle of the box, and he can peel off men because of his brain. And maybe he was just unlucky, but there was that one instance where he missed an absolute glaring sitter, didn't he, on about 55 minutes. Abada, laid him in. So his head was down. So I think it was a combination of a number of things that led to a sense of frustration. But Abada's doing himself no harm. I think the other wing spot we've got up for grabs. It's hard to know whether it's Haksabanovic or Abada or maybe Maeda. I think Abada, a little bit of run of form here, and he can grab that jersey permanently.
Yeah, we often see Abada come off the bench to great effect, and he's done brilliantly in some big games for us, obviously notably against Rangers. But he doesn't seem to be able to nail down that starting slot week in and week out. Darren, Jota today, I thought he was one in the first half. He ghosted past Matty Kennedy a couple of times, and then his end product just wasn't there, and I thought, we're not getting him the ball enough. But I think in the second half, he maybe looked a wee bit rusty. a few really slack passes and stuff. He's not long back for injury before the World Cup, but he will have had a rest there during the break. Do you think that was just a bit of rustiness for Jota today?
Well, I think to begin with, at the start of the game, you could see that whenever the ball went out to him, straight away he's got two guys on him. They're doubling up on him. Yes, Greg Taylor did kind of try and help him a wee bit, but obviously Jota's so good at just making that wee half yard of space to get a ball in, and I think his delivery was a bit poor today. And I think it might have affected his confidence. I think see getting into that second half, I think it was like 50, 60 minutes and he put in a terrible cross and went out for a throw in, I think. And I think that his head went down just after that, and I think it was probably the right thing to take him off. Yes, he's not played a lot of football. I think he played in the bounce game, didn't he, last week? So I think for Jota, maybe I think we should just try and nourish him back to fitness, and I think by a consistent run of games, I'm pretty sure we'll see the Jota that we normally see.
Aye, absolutely. Kenny, Giakoumakis came on about 70, 72 minutes. Probably a lot of people crying out for him a bit earlier in the game. We've briefly mentioned Kyogo's performance so far. It just wasn't his day. I mean, you said he had that chance where he's got to score. I don't really know what he's trying to do. He looks like he's trying to just get a little touch on it to take it into the corner, but he just gets it all wrong. And he had another one in the centre of the goals as well. It was a wee bit behind him. We just kind of volleyed it side foot wide. Just a bad day at the office for him.
I think he's struggled a little bit with confidence this season. I think there's been times where I could just sense that he's lacked confidence, and that's fed its way into his game. Remember that goal he scored up at Fir Park? I think it was a tap-in goal in the end, but it was palpable relief. You could see how relieved he was to just find the net, and that tells you that his mind has been working on him. And I could sense that within the game today. I mean, he got in behind. He won his great runs in the first half. He got in behind. He rounded the keeper. It was too tight an angle, and that's him at his best, right? He creates something out of nothing just with his movement, provided we can find him with a long ball. But that was really his only moment of real, traditional Kyogo movement in the game. It was such a bad miss at 50 minutes. Postecoglou thought it was in. So Giakoumakis is breathing down his neck to start. It's a difficult one, right? Because I myself you naturally scream for Giakoumakis to come on in a game like that, but it doesn't mean you should abandon your principles and start playing, direct high balls, because that's you just naturally feel that relieves a sense of frustration. You've got to get the balance right, okay? And it wasn't great when he came on, Giakoumakis, but if we're being fair about it, I think he, why not start him in the next game? If we're trying to be objective about it, if we're trying to keep him, I'm sure he's going to get frustrated if he's watching Kyogo perform like that and he's still on the bench. So I think he maybe deserves a run now. We've got to be fair about it. Do I think he'll get a run? Maybe not. I think there's maybe another 2 or 3 games in Kyogo left before Postecoglou would sort of move him to the bench.
I think the manager will probably continue to chop and change between both of them, but we never know on the outside what's going on inside if there is some movement or some discussions being had about Giakoumakis in the future. Will that maybe play a part in Ange's decision making in terms of putting him in and giving him a run if he thinks he's maybe angling for a move? We know a lot about how committed Ange wants the players to be, but it's unfair to judge that for the outside. Darren, there was a spell in the game about 60, 70 minutes where I thought we're just resorting to taking digs now, and that's a little bit of an acceptance that you can't break a team down, and whenever you get a half a yard on the edge of the box, just blast it. A lot of shots over the bar, but it's a shot from outside the box that wins it. To be fair, it's a much better angle from McGregor than we took a lot of shots for bad positions today, but I think it's Forrest that just knocks it to the side, and he's in that area just to the left-hand side of the 18-yard box where we've seen him drill in so many goals for there, and it's a great strike. Aye,
that 60, 70-minute period you're talking about, that's when I kind of thought this is kind of going towards a nothing each game here. But rightly says, I mean, all you have to look back is the last few games we've had, Ross County, Motherwell. As I says, any other Celtic team over the years, I would just go, right, it's no day, this is going to finish nothing each. But I think Kenny said at the start of this Celtic team just keep finding a way. And a shot for edge of the box for Callum McGregor is not... I've never seen Callum McGregor resort to the... He never really takes these long-range shots. Since Ange Postecoglou came in, he usually just sits behind the midfield and makes those passes. But it's kind of what we had to resort to today because the style that we played just wasn't working. And, sometimes when plan A doesn't work, you need to resort to a plan B, which we've been accused of not having one under Ange. And I think, I don't like to see us resort to long range shots, but I think when Aberdeen have 10 men in their own penalty area, you have to resort to doing it. And thankfully, Callum's just caught that so sweetly. And I'm pure relieved, mate, because I was so frustrated during that game, and all my frustration I just let it out when I was watching the game there, man. I've still got a sore throat, but yeah, it's just one of them games. I think Kenny said as well, it's massive.
Absolutely massive in the context of the season. But Kenny, absolutely massive for us to have Callum McGregor back. You talked about the number of passes he played today, and obviously Aberdeen's approach was a factor in that, but everything goes through him. We know his quality. We missed him greatly, even though O'Reilly deputised well. It's just brilliant to have him back, and you couldn't have picked a better man to give us the points there.
Yeah, what a different animal with him in the side. I mean, the only time I saw Postecoglou look distraught was when McGregor went off up at Alloa with his broken face, because I think he thought that was the end of his season. And I remember watching Postecoglou's post-match interview and thinking, you look shocked by this. That's because he recognises just how pivotal he is to everything we do. I think in commentary they said it was the record passes in a game this season. We'd only played an hour. I mean, what does that tell you? It tells you he's dominating and pulling the strings in every single department. And if you just think of his contribution to Celtic, the word legend, right, gets sort of launched around, but he's been here since he was 8 years old. He's going to get a testimonial year next year, I think. He's only 20, and he's not 30 until June. This is him at his peak. He's probably got another 3 or 4 years in him. He's one of Celtic's most decorated players in their history. And if you think about how he captains the side, Scott Brown as a captain was a sort of overtly passionate captain. Paul McStay, more a sort of technical player, but led by example. I think he's a nice blend of both because he's so passionate. Not quite as sort of in your face as Scott Brown, but he loves the club so dearly, and you can sense that in the way he plays the game. But he's a brilliant technician. Look at his goal there. He's not just about a leader in some of my high volume of passes. He's a brilliant technical footballer, which is starting to go overlooked a little bit because he's dropping deeper and he's playing that sort of, more of a captain's role. But I think he's brilliant in there. I think now it's absolutely crystal clear that's his best position, because what he's producing is superb, and I'm just so glad that he's back. If we keep him fit between now and the end of the season, we could be on to a treble.
You can't underestimate how big a player McGregor is for us. And Darren, it's so vital to start this run of games. It's a tough run we've got coming up. First one was Pittodrie today. We've got these 2 home games with Livingston and St Johnstone. Then we're at Easter Road and then Ibrox. So to get off to a winning start is absolutely huge.
I think if we drop points today, that would have really been took the confidence right out of the team, because Livingston next game, we all know how hard it is for us against Livingston. They're just going to do the exact same against Aberdeen. So 3 points today was vital. I think we just need to build on that. I think if I was the manager, I would just be saying to the team, you've got 9-point lead over Rangers. They've got this new manager in, and they're going to come out all guns blazing, in my opinion. And say, this game again in the 2nd of January, if we can just even keep that at 9 points after that game, the league's in the bag. And if I was the manager, that's what I'd be telling them. Just get through this difficult New Year period, and then moving into the next year, I think we can just make our way gradually towards another title.
Kenny, it was unlikely that we were going to be in absolute top gear. First game back from the break, but as the comment says, 200 goals under Postecoglou now, and I think it's only 83 games. 100 at home, 100 away from home. Remarkable brand of football that we love watching, but you've just got to hope that we can build on this performance today and get back to that top form for these big games coming up.
Yeah, and we will, because those 200 goals, they don't happen by fluke. Postecoglou's built something that is intrinsic in the squad. Okay, we looked a bit rusty today, but I mean, if you look at Aberdeen's approach, another way of viewing it is it's a huge compliment to Postecoglou, because we've reduced, traditionally one of our hardest away games, we've reduced them to just basically saying in the dressing room before the match, if we try and play against them, we've had it. All we've got to do is defend our own box and hope for the best. We've reduced them to doing that, and other Celtic sides in the past haven't. I mean, they won't be doing that on Tuesday night. Aberdeen, I'd be amazed if they pack their box on Tuesday night, because they'll feel that they can be more competitive. So teams are fearful of us. They don't know how to cope. The only way they can cope with us flooding 8 players at them is to pack their own box and hope for the best. So, look, I've no fear that because we struggled today and we only got a goal, we're not going to go on, that's going to affect that goal output that you just put up there as a start. It's remarkable. And it's exciting. I can see us with the fitness and Matt O'Reilly finding a bit more form, Jota finding form, and keeping everybody fit. It could be a really spectacular second half of the campaign.
Aye, let's hope so. And Darren, we've touched on it throughout, but that resilience, that never say die attitude to grind out victories. I think that's our 16th goal in the last 15 minutes, just in league matches this season. So the team's attitude is absolutely brilliant, and that style, that process that they're playing under instruction for the manager is clearly working, because even this late on in games, we always seem to find a way.
Yeah, it's not good for my nerves anyway, I'll tell you that. But it's good for my position in the league table. And I think, see, no matter what team you're always going to have games where it's a draw until the last 10 minutes, right? But no matter how good you're at football, it always comes down to a mentality. I think a resilience to push that last 10 minutes. You're tired. You want to get the last 3 points. And I think it's down to the players that the manager brings in, not just their football ability, but their mentality, their enthusiasm to go and win the games. It's so crucial. I think it's been overlooked for years. I think not just amongst us, but in football in general. And I think it's only when we get these kind of players in and this kind of manager in that we realise how important it actually is, and it can win you so many games as it has done for us already this season.
Aye, we've converted so many draws into victories, and that is what wins you titles at the end of the season. Kenny, is there any debate about man of the match today?
No, I think it's the clearest one all season, isn't it? I mean, there isn't any debate. I think I've spoken enough about him. I mean, it was even before, as we were headed for 0-0. I know you normally ask us this. I had written down McGregor, and I was going to praise him anyway, because irrespective of that goal, I thought he was superb. So yeah, it's the most obvious answer of the season, that one.
Darren, McGregor.
Same.
Yeah, full house for McGregor. There you go. That's it for live full-time reaction. Folks, like this video, comment with your own thoughts below, and we'll see you during the week for the build-up to that game against Livingston. Cheers.